Hey, good morning. Ben here with Studio on the Lake. This is something I should have done on the 4th of July. In fact, I had planned on it, and I didn't. It's Uncle Sam Whirligig. Here's a piece of basswood out of the shed. It's a smaller branch, but really clean wood. The project starts, as always, with an outline that Uncle Sam, I sold quite a few of those 25 years ago or better. I started making them. I kind of stole the Whirligig design of this guy, the little mechanism in the shoulders, which is pretty simple. I'm not going to do that. This will be a two-part video. The initial, just the rough carving of the Uncle Sam and his arms and such. And then I'm going to show you in the second video the technique of putting those together. It involves a coat hanger, a couple of nuts that I grind out, and it gives it that unique old-fashioned clackety-clack whirligig sound that you heard in the earlier part there. So here's a rough pattern. I'm not trying to duplicate this guy exactly. I am trying to get close to him. It's been a lot of years since I've carved this character, and the original one there was done without, as are several of the others that I'll show you probably in a future video. Abe Lincoln and various different things kind of run out of themes for whirligigs with these stand-up ones anyway, and I kind of have a tendency to find some of the other ones a little too simple. Just to cut out doesn't appeal to me, although I do enjoy the mechanisms that go in there. So there's my DeWalt. Don't do this at home. Has no safety guards on it, and I'm using that to do the rough out work. No sense in messing around with the burrs. I don't have any of the big burrs like Jordy does. I got a couple of big power carvers, but I kind of let them sit in the cabinet over there in the corner. Someday I'll break those out and show you what I've played with over the years. And this technique just seems to get there. So he's got a tail on his coat on the back. This was originally done, all these were originally done, like I said, a long time ago. But the majority of them, I was out in California at that time, Fort Irwin, California, up in the high desert, and redwood was readily available. You could go down to Home Depot, Lowe's, and get a redwood 2x4 that was really clean. And if any of you folks are out in the California area, Southern Oregon, you know the deal, Utah, Arizona, you might still be able to get redwood 2x4s. If you pick through their pile, which makes them real happy, by the way, you can see them giving you evil looks while you sort through 20 of them to get the one that has a nice clear grain. It also smells good when you're carving it. But those were all done with hand tools. That was long before my power carving days, and primarily with just a small set of 6 chisels and a knife or two. It takes a little bit longer. I've said before, there's a little knife work. I enjoy picking up a knife on occasion in the middle of these, but by and large I do power carving simply because it's quicker. And I know a lot of folks out there just do the knife work. I hope to someday, when I have a lot of extra time on my hands, which I don't right now, just do some knife work videos. And you saw there is a setup in the front there. I got a really nice letter from Cutsall, and Cutsall suggested that I become an affiliate, that I kept mentioning their bits on there. They didn't mention the fact that I also use Saber bits, which is a competitor of theirs, but we'll ignore that for now. So I did. I'm a Cutsall affiliate now. There's a link in there. It's kind of the same deal Jordy has. You get 5% off of those bits, and that's in the description, the link below. Also built a Facebook page, and the intent of that is to get a little more interaction and get all the videos linked up, and a little bit of extra content going in there for those of you that are interested in that sort of thing. And that's a work in progress. I got the initial page up, so if you go there, don't expect great things just yet. But I will be posting as those go through. So we're working on his hat. Oh, and the last thing I forgot, I put a buy me a coffee link in there. It's through PayPal, and operation. You can go ahead and donate that way if you want. Sounds like panhandling. But here's the hat going around. And you're going to find out later on in the video. I noticed early on here that the hat is sitting a little too tall and proud on his head. And there's a graphic warning in the middle of the video here about that. I'll show you how to fix that. I do that a lot of times, actually, to be quite honest. I'll be working on a bird or any carving, in this case the whirligig, and I'll notice that there is a section that doesn't fit together for dimension wise, and since this is wood and you can cut it, I'll cut that section out a lot of times and shorten it down, and that's what we do here. It seems almost sacrilegious to cut the middle out of a carving, but sometimes you need to do that to make it look right, so you don't have to throw it in the firewood, because it's all about dimensions in a lot of cases and whatnot. Of course, if you do better layout and you spend a little bit of time drawing, which I don't typically, you could forego that. So I'm setting in a basic face there. That's an Ultima carver. Once again, I've said before, I think those things are all the same. The handpiece portion of it, if I go to look at them, you can get them from various different people for various different prices. Now, some of them are brushless, and I suspect the bearings are probably better in them. But I think by and large, most of them come from China. And then these manufacturers put them into their controller and package it that way. And the reason I say that is a lot of these handpieces have the exact same phono cord on them to plug in. So, working out his face, most of this video, even though it is a teaching video on various different things, a lot of you have seen what I do with these things before. There you go, Jordy. There's a close-up of the socks for you. These are red, by the way, not the other one. I checked them. They don't have any holes in them. It's like my almost 2-year-old grandson. If you got a shirt on with a hole in it, he has to stick his finger in it. And so I guess some people never grow up, but the holes fascinate them. So there is his jacket. It's roughed out. You'll notice that I'm not completely carving everything. I move around the carving and work on different sections at a time. That way you don't overdo one portion of it. This is going to be a two-part, because it is interesting how the arms get put on these things. Kind of unique. I didn't figure it out. My father-in-law made a lot of these and sold a lot of them out in Connecticut, and I just copied what he did. In fact, a lot of this stuff, I didn't figure any of it out. I copied it from other people, so feel free to copy it from me. When you're looking at patterns and various different things, my son, who's a graphic artist and actually went to art school and all that good stuff to learn all about this stuff, he tells me that 10%, if you take a photograph or you copy something and you need to change 10% of it before you get into copyright law. That seems like a awful small amount. I suspect it has something to do with how much money the person that you're copying has and how interested they are in protecting what they got. I think if you change 10% of the Coca-Cola logo, you'd find that your lawyers weren't as good as their lawyers. But I don't know the answer to that. So, and if you're not selling it, if you're just making it for yourself, of course you can, I think, get away with pretty much anything, as long as you're not doing it to annoy people. So here's his jacket going down through the middle, and it is kind of a waistcoat, I guess. And you're going to see on this thing that when I get down to the legs, I didn't have quite enough wood. I will let a saw cut go a little bit too deep to make his pants go out, so I just made thinner legs on it as opposed to the original. Had you not seen the original, you'd never know that this wasn't quite the same. I've said before several times, if you duplicate a carving, I've found anyway, that the first one is typically the best, with a couple of exceptions. And everything that you do after that, trying to duplicate or copy that, turns out to be kind of a second best deal. There's a split in his legs. I do these guys and you kind of give them a crouching, slightly bent at the knee. I mount them on these little ones like this. I mount them on a, I don't know, 4x4, 5x5 piece of 3/4 wood, just a base. If you set them out in the wind, they do work, but the problem with them is they work too good. The wind gets to going and they start walking off and they eventually blow over. You could stick them on a post out here and let them go, but then you got to do some weatherproofing and that sort of thing. And the mechanism isn't that precision. It doesn't have bearings and that sort of stuff in it. I like the clickety-clack sound that you heard in the beginning there. And in the second video, I'll show you how I do that. Make it do that sort of sound. The squeaking and the clacking as it goes around with the wind is kind of one of the unique things of a whirligig, I think. Kind of like a set of wind chimes. So this guy really was designed to get out of a 2x4, and rather than do a 2x4, as you can see, I cut him out of a section of basswood simply because I have it and I like the way basswood carves. If you see the blue handpiece, it typically will have a cut-saw bit in it. If you see the black handpiece, which is my older one, it will have a saber bit in it. And once again, I like both of those the same. I don't like the cheap Chinese bits, the diamonds and the various different things. They don't work well, as the Dremel bits are not necessarily good for this either. They're good for playing around with projects and that sort of thing, but they have no longevity. They will work initially up front, some of them, but they don't last, and they're really kind of the same price. Most of these bits are around $15 a piece, and I probably get a year or two out of them, depending on what I do. Now, if you take this handpiece and set it on something and drop it, it only takes a small amount of that thing, the bit hitting the ground, to bend it just enough to have too much vibration in your hand. And that's really annoying, especially if you got a brand new bit in there and you knock that thing off and it whacks the floor. You pick it up and turn it on and you're like, okay, well, that's the end of that bit. There's just no way to true those things back together again. I did a lot of this. Most of it's at 3 times the speed on that. Hey, we are getting close on the subscribers there, but there's a lot of folks out there. Obviously, you guys know that Jordy and I have a lot of fun with the carvings in there, so go over and check out Jordy's channel, Carving Fusion. He's quite prolific. He cranks out a lot of videos. I can't keep up with that. Just Carve Rob is the same way. He started, I think Jordy got him started. And those guys are goofy. And I'm somewhere in the middle. I enjoy their antics. But old time carver who does a lot, has tons of videos out there, and it's kind of one of the standards in carving, is Gene Messer. So he always watches my videos and leaves comments on them, and that's great stuff to see the folks that have been doing this for many years. So go over and check out Gene Messer. He's quite a prolific carver also. He's a character carver. Sits in and carves stuff in his lap with just a knife. So check out Gene Messer's channel. Mark DeMaker. These are guys that are all going to be down in the description link there. You should check out Mark DeMaker. His stuff is nice, and I enjoy his comments. So basically, it's just a community of wood carvers. I don't know if we're amusing ourselves or if we're amusing other people, but hopefully you can get some hints out of it. And we all have different styles. That's kind of the neat thing about it. There's some guys out there that are a little bit more serious than the rest of us, and I have reached out to a few of them, and they're not interested in being in our goofy group. Well, at least that's what I would think, or they're ignoring us. But their stuff is still worth looking at. You can go over look at Stennis Sticks. Not so much a how-to, although you can get a lot of good stuff out of that. Wonderful, beautiful carvings that he does over there. And don't forget Mario Tata. He's just a beginning carver, he's in the group of us knuckleheads on that. So I'm outlining with the burning pin, as you've seen me do before. Setting his beard in. He's got a collar, a couple collars in there. And if you look at the original one, when we get to painting, you'll see that that stuff is in there. There's some new guys that I'm looking at and watching their stuff. One of them is Bob Whitehead. He's a chainsaw guy. Kevin Coates is doing some great stuff. Kyle Hall has been around a long time doing chainsaw stuff. And then there's a unique guy that you really ought to take a look at. It's called Linden Bark, Linden Bark, and these guys are all down in the description there. But Linden Bark, his carvings are precision, and he does them with hand tools, and the style is a European style. So I have to wonder if maybe he wasn't trained in a European wood carving school. If you go down in Germany to Oberammergau, there are 100 wood carving shops. And although they're finishing up in a lot of cases production work that was done on a duplicator, they're finishing them up with hand tools. There are still tons of wood carvers that were trained in schools. In Europe, you could go to a wood carving school. I don't know the length of time that it took, where some teacher could tell you how bad you were screwing up a beautiful piece of art. But you can tell if you look at Linden Bark. He's got some really neat stuff, and he's just a fine detail kind of guy. And again, these guys are all down in the description, so check them out and support each of their channels. You're starting to see up here where what I was seeing initially right up front as I was doing the face. I could have done the face a little bit higher, but he has to kind of sit. The face has dimensions, the 2/3 rule, 1/3, 2/3 kind of thing for eyes, nose, mouth, that sort of stuff. Even though this guy is a character, he still needs to have some of the dimensions correct. And if you don't believe me, go watch Jordy working on that throne where he completely cuts the bottom part of a nose off on a character because it was bothering him. I didn't notice it. I don't think anybody else did, but Jordy did. So here's a graphic warning right here. Sounds bad, but there you go. His hat's cut off and top of his head flattened out. So I took about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch out of this, and I glued it back on. Cut it down. I like it better. It sits in there a lot better and doesn't look like a pinhead with a hat out in space somewhere. Getting near the end of this video. The arms are pretty straightforward, although there is a trick on the arms when I start putting the mechanism in. And then the paddles can be pretty much any shape. In this case, they're an American flag deal. They are cut into the hands after I put the arms on because they need to go at a certain angle, and you'll see that. So there's the paddles and the two hands. I do go ahead and mark on the hands which side is the inside, because the inside is left flat and they kind of have to go on the race. See there it says left on there, and the other one will say, you guessed it, right. And that portion right where it says L and R on there will not get carved. That'll remain flat, and it goes up against the shoulder. You'll notice on the body of the carving, I didn't finish out the shoulders that well, and I didn't do that because after I get the arms on there, you kind of match them in. What I'm drawing on here now, just to show you, because I know what's going on there, I will actually saw that piece off, and then the wire goes under it, gets bent over in the arm so it doesn't spin. And I will show you that trick in the second video, which will make that clacking sound that goes, that I kind of like on the old ones. There is a Bacchus face in the background that I haven't shown you guys. It's getting some work. So here I was just amusing myself. Picked up a knife and kind of rounded over the corners of those. Sometimes I don't get away from the dust. So there would be the arm going on, and this has to clear. It will, because that will get inserted up in there about 1/4 inch in a slit, and it will clear his feet. Nothing worse than putting this guy together and he goes around one time and whacks on the ground. So there on the left is an old one, and the one on the right is the one that we're working up. So like, subscribe, by all means comment, check out the Facebook page, and part 2 will be the mechanism, and I'll go ahead and paint this one on camera for you guys. So hey, thanks a lot for watching this. Been Ben with Studio on the Lake.